All right, boys and girls, we've got another knife here from Mr. Ed. This is also from South Africa, from a South African maker. And it is and I'm going to butcher the name. That's just a given. Sorry. Thias Meades. We're going to go with that. Thias Meades. Probably wrong, but what are you going to do? And Mr. Ed kind of blames me and Alex because we talk so highly of the South African makers. And Mr. Ed saw one similar to this from a friend of his. And so he reached out to the maker himself, found out his books were closed, but the maker says, hey, what are you looking for exactly? Maybe I can squeeze you in, later in the year or whatnot. This is back in 2022. And so Mr. Ed got to really design this knife, used built to his exact specs. There you go. So what we've got here is we've got antique Westinghouse micarta scales, superconductor shield, which is kind of the logo from the maker's mark, if you will. Orange peel titanium liners and pocket clip. Titanium hardware. I believe it's a zirconium backspacer. And a very beautiful Damasteel blade. Now, I don't love top flippers, front flippers, whatever you want to call them, but that's okay. I really like this knife. It's not really for me, but it's kind of Mr. Ed's take on a traditional, folder, right? Because, well, it has a pocket clip. It is that front flipper, top flipper type of deal. The detent is a little light. If Mr. Ed wanted to change anything, it would be the detent. Needs a little bit more, and I agree with that. Okay? But even for me, once I pick it up and I remember, hey, this is a light detent, I need to open it with purpose and intention. After a couple of opens, you can carry this all day and you would not misfire it. I misfired it during the unboxing because, well, I had never touched it before. It just came out of the box for the first time, and that was that. So, but once you get to use it and you understand your knife, it just works. And that's not uncommon with a lot of knives. As I pick up the VC Edge interface, it has a little bit different detent than the North Arm Skaha, which has a different detent than the Kubi. So I think for me anyway, and I can really only speak for me ever, when I pick a knife for the day, I open and close it a few times. Just because I decide, well, do I really want to carry that one today? And I open and close it a few times and I'm like, yeah, okay, that one will work. And then I throw it in my pocket. So that kind of does a couple things. One, is that the knife I want to carry that day or not? And then two, it acclimates me to its particular detent opening. Is it a flipper tab? Is it a thumb stud? Is it a top flipper, front flipper? It kind of gives me that sort of, gets used to it. All right. So back to this specific knife. This is the Dino 4-inch. Okay. It's just a hair over 4 inches closed, 6 7/8 overall. 2.95 blade with a 2.5 inch cutting edge. Behind the edges, super thin at 0.010. The blade thickness is 0.124. Weighs in at 3.4 ounces. Runs on bearings. Super smooth. 0.557 in overall thickness. I think it's a very cool knife. Let's take a closer up look and kind of walk around it here. I love this Damasteel pattern. And the etch on it and everything just came out perfect. On the spine, here is the maker's name. And I will put a link to their Instagram down below. And there is also a Facebook group, Meades Knives on Facebook. But just very well done. Mr. Ed is super happy with it, which I love. It's always good when somebody goes to a South African maker because I recommended that. Now, I didn't recommend this particular maker. I just recommended South African makers. And they have a good experience. Because if they have a terrible experience, then that makes me sad and feel bad. For me personally, it does stick out of the pocket quite a bit. Right about there. But that's okay. To each his own on stuff, guys. I mean, buy what you want, carry what you want, love what you want. And Mr. Ed did tell me that he had a wonderful experience. He said that the maker was probably one of the best buying experiences that he has had in configuring a knife outside of Sharknivco, because Mr. Ed has several, I think he has a few Wakas from Edison, and Edison is fantastic to work with. But every South African maker that I have ever dealt with or done videos on, because I don't own any, shockingly, have been great. They've messaged me back if I've got questions. I've done videos. They've seen them, and then they've reached out to me and said, thank you for doing a video. I don't know that I've had but maybe one or two small American makers ever say thank you for doing a video. Jason at VC Edge, he has thanked me for doing a video. I think there's been a couple of others. Robert Carter, I think, reached out and said thank you for a video. And that might be it. There's 2 or 3 American makers, but I've had 3 or 4 South African makers that have reached out. So I don't know. It's just a different thing. The best way I can explain it is the South African makers are grateful that we spent their money with them. The American makers are just kind of expect us to spend their money with them. And they're like, yeah, okay, you bought my thing. So what do you want, a cookie? Like, you know, but I think the South African makers are just more grateful that we gave them our business. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but that's the sense I get. And when I talk to other people that have bought from South African makers, they say the same thing. Mr. Ed can maybe comment down below his thoughts when he sees this video, but yeah, it's hard to describe and put into words. The fit and finish from every South African maker I have ever handled. And I'll put a link to my South African playlist up at the corner and down in the description. They're almost always perfect. There's been a couple. George Mueller, if it's the one I recall, has a little bit of rough edges here and there. But outside of him, everything else has been absolutely spot on fantastic. So yeah, I can't recommend South African makers enough. And there's a bunch of them. So check out my playlist down below and you'll be able to see a wide variety of South African makers. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have yourselves a fantastic day.